and wonderfully made human. You're listening to the Holistic Counselor podcast, where we explore the intersection of faith, mental health, and whole person healing. I'm your host, Diana, licensed mental health counselor and integrative practitioner who believes that true healing flows from the one who designed us, body, mind, and soul. Whether you're navigating trauma, reconstructing your faith, or simply curious about how emotional healing and spiritual truth meet, this space is for you. Today's guest found her way to me through a list sent by Pacific and Court. I was scrolling through the names when I saw her book and just felt it in my gut. This is someone I need to talk to. As someone with Caribbean and Colombian roots and a family line full of herbalists and wisdom keepers, Aleya Fraser's work hit home for me. Aleya is an ethnobotanist, land steward, and writer currently living in the northern range of Trinidad and Tobago, or Tobago. Tomato, tomato. She and her husband run a citrus and cocoa estate, a bean to bar chocolate company called Panorama Cacao, and host botanical excursions for travelers. Her background blends a degree in physiology and neurobiology with ancestral herbal wisdom passed down through elders and lived land based experience. In this episode, I'm really hoping that we will explore how reconnecting with the land, our roots, and our nervous system can become a pathway to real healing. This is one of those conversations that I'm hoping bridges science, soul, and story. And I'm so honored to have her here. Aleya, welcome to the
Thank
Holistic Counselor
you.
Podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here as well and look forward to diving deep.
All righty. So let's just go at it. First of all, can you tell the audience the name of your book and what got you to, to write the book on herbalism, and why do you
Mhm.
believe that kind of ancestral wisdom is important for mental and emotional health today?
Yeah. My book is called Caribbean Herbalism, and the tagline is traditional knowledge and modern herbal healing. So it's bridging, the traditional knowledge that I've collected over the years, sitting with elders, along with my research into the science and the research about these plants and how that I call it Western medicine is catching up with traditional knowledge because everything corroborates each other. But yeah, it's good to see that it's catching up. And I grew up in Baltimore City and Baltimore County, but my family's from Trinidad and Tobago. So as an adult, I went back there. But along that journey, yeah, I say it's a lifelong journey that brought me to writing this book because I grew up being out in nature. I loved connecting with nature. And then when I went to college, I went to college to be a doctor. I studied physiology and neurobiology, took my MCAT. I was pre-med, was working in hospitals, but then I
Nice.
started farming and God took me in a whole nother direction and said, look, food is medicine. I have, herbs for the service of mankind. Let's go about it this other direction. And it felt after that, when you listen to spirit, everything flows really fast. So I was farming on the eastern shore of Maryland on Harriet Tubman's ancestral lands, and that's when I really started connecting with plants as herbs and medicine because I'm sitting there weeding plants and picking,
Yeah.
so weeding our raw sweet potatoes, and I'm pulling up purslane and I'm pulling up wild mints and just all different things that I felt like I should be using this stuff too. And I started to research them and really realize that, I'm surrounded by medicine and started documenting this and writing more about it, researching more. And that was kind of the beginning of my journey. And then when I moved to Trinidad, that's when the ethnobotany and working with plants as medicine kind of like blew up because I started learning about my grandmother's history with plants. And, like you said, your family has a history with herbalism and healing. So once you connect with those stories, you're like, okay, I really know I'm on the right path. And I I met an ethnobotanist elder named Francis Morian who took me under his wing, and we used to go interview people for his writings. And I would be the person holding the recorder, helping him transcribe. And the ball just kept
Wow.
rolling. And my husband and I, we live basically in the rainforest, surrounded by many of these herbs that are studied by Western medicine. They say 25% of pharmaceuticals originated in the Amazon rainforest. So we are surrounded by those. And because I have such a strong connection with nature and I like to connect people to that, I do that with, in-person events, whether when I was in the Eastern Shore of Maryland and also when I'm in Trinidad. But I find that writing is like this long lasting way to reach more people. So that really inspired my book because I wanted, I just felt like I had all this information inside of me that needed a place to go.
Well, I
and
mean, yeah. Listen, Aleya, like
uh-huh.
Aleya, I have the Spanish comes out as you hear Aleya. Oye,
Yeah.
mija. Listen, it makes so much sense because that is something that I realized too for so long, especially when in my therapist. So if you went into the Western and you saw what was happening in the hospital, it's not, I don't want to put doctors down because they're being
Mm-hmm.
taught certain things, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
bet you that's what you saw, that the certain
Mm-hmm.
things, and you start questioning about, well, what about things that from our bloodline, from other places that have not been studied or understood or not, here I'm going to use the C word, colonized and and stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to build a bridge, Aleya, especially with this podcast, for people to have that understanding. It's not about this blame game that we're so caught up in, like it's your fault, your fault, your fault, your fault.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're here now, and now we have choices to make,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Agreed, agreed. Yeah.
And so as we make these choices, what are we going to do to implement healing? And we, every person listening, every person that watches it, we all have responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And we have choices to either fall for the terrible fear narrative of like, this is the only way, this is the narrow way, this is how it is, or are we going to sit still with Creator, Great
Mm-hmm.
Spirit, to me, Jesus Christ,
Mm-hmm.
okay, then and nature of what He created in the book of Genesis,
Yeah.
right? So you tell me, like you were saying, okay, first of all, ethnobotanist, I swear. I mean, I'm a little bit of a nerd of understanding and I love to learn more and more. But ethnobotanist, I know ethno means like people. No.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, no, no,
yeah.
and botanist is plants.
Uh-huh.
So tell me more about that. Like you were on your way to med school. You went and took the M, and I know how hard that is because I have a daughter-in-law who is right now becoming an anesthesiologist, and I can't even. And
Okay.
my son is becoming a CRNA.
Okay, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so they're in that field, and I
Yeah.
also know my personal experience with psychiatry and I don't want to say psychology because they're not the medicine part of it, but
Mm-hmm.
and my own personal, Aaliyah, my own personal health situations when I
Mm-hmm.
had thyroid issues and then I found a holistic integrative doctor. And
Okay,
a lot of people
okay.
think it's all woo woo, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's woo woo. It's some people think it's demonic. Oh, she's a witch. You would be, put on a stake if you were doing the things with the herbs and I'm like, and I
Mm-hmm.
still, my husband, he's an American man, a white
Uh-huh.
American man. So when he
Uh-huh.
first met me, he's like, this is witchy. But now, 31 years later, he's like, wow, your stuff makes sense.
Word,
Like
yeah.
eh,
Mm-hmm.
you having all the herbs in the backyard, and he does come from a line of where they had a garden because they were real poor,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
and
We all have it in our lineage somewhere.
yeah, and so they had to do a lot of vegetables and stuff like that because it was cheap. They couldn't have meat. Meat was like a treat.
Yeah, yeah.
So I want to know is like how your well, first of all, ethnobotanist, and you talked about a man earlier
Mm-hmm.
and I never heard of him, and that you learned, and he must have been your mentor. And
Mm-hmm.
like, what was the shift or the change for you where you were just like, because I know it probably had to be something uncomfortable inside your system going, wait a minute, huh? Huh? And you started questioning. But then when you question, What
Yeah.
happened with you? Because I
Yeah.
could talk about what happened with me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you were exactly right with ethno meaning people and botany plants. So it's the study of people and plants throughout history. And it's different from just herbalism, where you're just studying what plants do. Like I like to know about plants, not just for their medicinal uses for humans, but their uses for dye, their uses for fiber, their uses for building, pollinators, everything. So that's one part of it. And for me, it was also health issues that I was going through. And I was looking at, I was going to buy things from GNC or just, online. And God said, no, like you need to be growing these things, or at least building a relationship with them. And
Mm.
that's not going to be the case for everybody. I always tell people we all are getting different instructions, and that's okay. But for me, that was what was feeling uncomfortable in me, like trying to heal myself with a pill bottle herb. Like, of course, if I go to the doctor and they give me a pill, I expect a disconnection. But if I'm using a herb that grows from the earth that I can grow myself, I wanted to have that personal connection with it. And then learning how elders and ancestors use these things that validated it for me, because like the main reason are these traditions and plants are considered woo woo isn't, of course, isn't because it is. It's just because of lack of research, the context of how we use them being stripped away. I find that, if you just say dandelion root is good for XYZ without understanding how an elder prepared it or how much of it they use, like, yeah, it's not going to work as well. So I wanted to know that context. And that's what I got from studying the books and also studying under elders. Yeah.
Yeah. So you named two things already where people actually, and this is where it gets me so very frustrated. We have the suburbs, right? And I
Hmm.
and this is an argument I have with my husband all the time because you might live in a homeowner association or you have the lawn, okay? And so
Yeah.
you have Roundup and all the pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, and they're killing dandelion roots and
Hmm.
purslane. You name
Hmm.
two weeds that I know about where I'm like,
Uh-huh.
those are edible. And people are like, whoa, like they think I have some kind of magic because I know this. But I'm telling you, I'm like, well, you can know this too. You can
Hmm.
understand
Hmm.
that whatever land, even in the cities, I know that like in New York City, there are people that have their herb garden or their
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
on top of the roofs and
Yeah.
stuff. So
Yeah.
like people are like, I can't do this, I can't do this. But I'm like, but that's how we all started
Yeah.
before the concrete jungle, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I find I've looked at it in my parents' neighborhood because they live in the suburbs. Like I
Mhm.
find there's even less herbs in the suburbs than the cities somehow because of everyone spraying their lawns. So like there's just no biodiversity. Whereas in the city, you still have just these wild things growing out of cracks and like you can still find and see these plants. But yeah, nothing like getting into nature outside of the city and outside of the suburbs too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But so let's talk about that a little more, of what you've learned or know or what you see, because honestly, I want to help people to understand better. I want them to feel empowered that they can take the one plant, the one rosemary plant that could
Mhm.
grow, right?
Mhm.
Or the one, it doesn't have to be this perfect lawn. Okay, I live in South Florida. I don't know if you've ever been to South Florida.
Yep, yep, yep.
Okay.
Family from Fort Lauderdale and Miami. Yeah.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Do you
I
ever
have
come?
family there. Yeah,
Do you
yeah,
ever
I
come
come
visit?
there maybe
Okay,
like once a
girl.
year.
Oh, wait. Well, that once a year, please can reach out so we could come in
Uh-huh.
and have a cup of tea or the bush tea
Definitely.
because that's
Yes.
another thing. All right. I'm like bush tea. I'm like, I'm a tea snob. Anyone that knows me personally, they know I'm a tea snob.
Uh-huh.
People are like, let's go have coffee. I'm like, no, I'll have tea. And it
Yep,
has to be
yep,
good
yep,
tea.
yep,
All right.
yep.
So so let's go to the bush tea right now because this is how my brain flows.
Okay.
Uh, uh, what is that? Like I read that somewhere and I'm like, bush tea? What do you mean bush tea? What? And then I started going into that rabbit hole people know I
Uh-huh.
like to go into. But please explain it
Yeah.
since you're the one that really knows and studies it.
Yeah, bush is just a Caribbean way of saying herbs. So like a herbal tea, but not
How
in a
did I not know that?
package. Yeah, not
Okay.
in a package.
All right.
It's the tea that you're going out into the bush or your yard, picking in the morning and drinking. So I think of bush tea as like that whole process of picking it fresh, brewing it, and
Wow.
brewing the fresh herbs. So when you go in your yard and pick some mint and make a tea of it, that's a bush tea.
Really? Oh my
Uh-huh.
gosh. So listen, people, I've been a bush tier. What do we call ourselves then?
A bush woman. He's a bush woman.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. Oh, my husband's gonna love this when I tell him that.
And it's about reclaiming the because like that word has can have negative connotations like
Does it?
bush, backwards, negative, like people moving forward. People leave the bush and go to the cities, but to me, the
Yeah.
bush is where we start. It's so going back to it and
Gosh,
reclaiming those words is important.
look at that. Like, look at the host just had a aha moment in front of everybody. That's awesome. How did I not know this? This is what happens. Your brain can
Yeah,
only take so much information or
exactly.
when you need to find the information, right?
Hmm.
It shows
Hmm.
up.
And it clicks.
And
Yeah.
it clicks. Okay, so let's talk about that because if you understand do you understand the different regions too and what might grow there? Did you learn that as well as
Hmm.
oh,
The
okay.
different regions of the world, or you mean different regions of
So
Caribbean? Uh-huh.
so for example, right now a listener is in Ohio.
Hmm.
Yeah, and they're like bush tea. What is this? What are these Caribbean brown girls talking about? Like black girl, brown girls talking about, right? And
Uh-huh.
and they're from Ohio and they're not from the Caribbean, okay?
Hmm.
And they're like bush, but I want to try it. I want to check it out. I want to be able to get with nature and
Uh-huh.
and make my own bush tea. What would you suggest? Like, is there something that
Yeah.
you know of that like that grew in Baltimore or wherever?
Hmm.
And then I know in South Florida we're kind of like the Caribbean, so I know
Yeah, you
I
have
could
a lot of
grow.
the same things.
Yeah, so tell me, like
Yeah,
share some
so
recipes or whatever it is that you know.
so interesting enough, right now I'm on sabbatical in Virginia. So I've been surrounded, connecting with this nature again that I grew up in, like this type of these plants. And one plant that I've been drinking in the mornings is bee balm, and that grows wild in Ohio to Maryland, a lot of different places. And it has a minty oregano flavor. People
Ooh.
can use it as seasoning as well. So that would be something like it's growing outside my front door in Virginia. So I go pick it, make tea out of it. That's a
And
bush
people have
tea.
no clue that that's what that is, right?
Uh-huh. Well, a lot of people just grow bee balm as an ornamental, yeah. And
Oh,
it's very medicinal as well, and calms the
wow.
nervous system, calms the gut. Um, Another, dandelion is something. If you trust your neighborhood, you can dig up dandelion root and boil
And eat
it
the flowers.
and eat the flowers, make a tea out of the leaves or the root, and that would be a bush tea. If those are things that are growing wild, but if you in your garden have mint growing, if
Hmm.
you have oregano, thyme, lemon balm, any of these sage,
Yeah.
rosemary, even
Basil.
basil, yeah, all of the herbs that you can eat in your food, you can make a tea of as well. And yeah, I just encourage people to play with them, use, taste it to make different ratios to see what tastes good. And
Hmm.
and for me, building that relationship is journaling and noticing the effects. Like people get really frustrated with bush medicine or herbal medicine because they want it to work fast, like a silver bullet, just like maybe a pill does. But if you're not building it into a daily routine or rhythm or ritual, if you're not praying, if you're not intentional with it, I find you're not going to have the same effects. And that's what I try to talk to people about in the book and in real life. Like they're
Yeah.
not magic bullets, even though they are
No.
amazing.
Well,
Yeah.
let's go to the journaling and the ritual and the rhythm because
Hmm.
to me, Aleya, I that's when you have to be still. And I think that's what's missing in our culture, our society. We are in such a fast-paced 24/7 information overload. And the young people, Aleya, I don't know how old you are, but I worked with adolescents for
Yeah.
about 2 decades.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we see it not only in adolescents. I have a lot of 25 to 35-year-olds coming to me now because they're like the first generation to be raised on social media.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's become that's their their ritual. They wake up right away. Guess what? Guess what's waking them up? The
Their
little
phone.
rectangle. And then
Uh-huh.
they go straight to the rectangle and then every notification. And they purposely made every notification red on purpose because they studied it. They had
Hmm.
psychologists. A lot of people don't know these things. This is what I do in therapy now. A
Yeah, you
lot
have to
of
get people away from their phones and out of that. Yeah.
yeah, it's and I don't want to say detox and get rid of it because this is where we're at. We're at
Hmm.
ChatGPT.
Hmm.
We're at this information overload, but we don't have to let it get on us. I remember Prince talking about he was getting an award for the Yahoo. I don't know, you know Prince, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yahoo,
of
right?
course.
And he and he was sitting there going, "Hey, the internet is here. Do not let the internet get on you. You're the one who needs to get on the or something like that. I don't know. I'm
Hmm.
butchering that.
Hmm.
I'll try to find the clip and put it in the show notes. But basically, we're trying to now take that pause and become more like Mary in the Bible. That's what because
Uh-huh.
I am a faith-based counselor. And I kind of tell them like we are so Martha. We're doing the work
Yeah.
for our religion or for our faith or whatever. And look, but then we're still so burnt out.
Hmm.
You know, we have all this medication and all this stuff, but we still have an influx of anxiety and depression and suicide rates going through the roof. Aleya, what you just mentioned about the journaling, the ritual, the taking the step back and connecting, this is something that I was reading about in Japanese therapy, where it's Shinrin
Okay.
Yuko, right? Or
Okay.
forest bathing.
Oh yeah, yeah, I've heard of forest bath. And yeah, that's just what we do.
Exactly. It
Uh-huh.
is taking the time to understand that God's creation is all around us, even in the urban Manhattan
Hmm.
cracks
Hmm.
of the sidewalk.
Hmm. Hmm.
It is there. It is growing. It is for us. That's why it's made. So, saying all that, let's talk about mental health and that slowing down and breathing. And like tell me like what you do maybe or like how you do it or what you teach.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely forest bathing. I haven't used those terms, but I always tell people whenever I'm feeling a little upset or anxious, my husband's like, go for a walk in the forest, please. And I'm like, you can resist it because we always resist our healing, but then once you do it, you feel
Mm,
better.
yes.
And I find that another thing that's been important for my mental health is like a lot of us are feeling disconnected, disassociated. And when you do ground yourself in nature, you come back into your body. You have to be present. You have no choice, especially where I live, where there's spiders, there's poisonous snakes. Like I can't be walking through the forest thinking about a million other things. I
Or
have
on
to
your
be
phone.
present or on my
Right.
phone. Exactly. I have to be extremely present. Um, and then the other piece that's really affecting our mental health is like we feel powerless today. We're looking at the news, we see so many things going awry, and we're like, what can I do? And I find like when I'm able to, even the smallest thing, I tell people start with aloe. Like everyone can remember using aloe to treat their own bug bite or their own burn or sunburn. And that's power. Like that really empowers you to know that you do have control in your life to help yourself, to heal yourself. So um, connect, associate with nature, and empower ourselves by using that at least one or two herbs in your daily life or in your weekly life that work and that can help you. I think people get a little not confused, but it's hard to think when you're trying to like cure cancer or like those aren't the things that we should be focused on. It's really like we can cure our sore throat using honey and lemon, and we can make our bug bites feel better using aloe. And then as you do those things more, you keep upping the ante and learning more and more. Yeah.
Exactly. I know during COVID, I was making, and I had doctors living across the street from me, and they were, we all remember COVID. I mean, I
Yeah,
think we
yeah.
actually, even though it's 5 years out, we are still having the effect of that, what happened there, especially the
Yeah.
young kids that you were forced, and trying to figure
Especially
stuff out.
mental health more than
Oh,
physical health, I'm
yeah,
sure.
I think it's all of it. You have long
Mhm.
COVID, people that got it and have long COVID, people that
Okay.
had, whatever you believe, the shot or no shot, whatever, vax or no vax, whatever it is, we're here. Like we can't
Mhm.
go back and be trying to change it and get all that anger. Because anger, what's anger do to the system? It's okay to
Yeah.
be angry, but it's what you do with the anger. Are you letting it out? Like go outside and
Yeah,
scream in
yeah.
the forest if you need to,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
journal it out. So I would make these. My husband's a beekeeper.
Oh, so is mine. That's cute.
Ah, cool. Oh no, Aaliyah. When you and
We
your man
gotta
come,
meet.
we're going out to
Uh-huh.
dinner. To a nice,
Uh-huh.
natural, holistic, organic place that hopefully I could find. If not, I'll try cooking. See, that's the thing. Cooking and me, I do. So anyway, I made these
Yeah.
things with the
Mm-hmm.
raw garlic, raw honey,
Okay.
um, pure turmeric, organic turmeric, and I would make it into shots. And
Mm-hmm.
I would bring them over to the doctor, and they were just like, whatever this is, just keep it. And they would come over. Do you have any more?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
it's not only healing the cells, like we have, like you studied neurobiology, you said, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
physiology.
Yeah.
You understand the big fancy words of ATP or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or the energy, but that's just energy in our cells. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
the 100 trillion, I don't even know if that's the right number of cells in our body. And
So
God gave
power.
us what we need to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And He also gave us wisdom. And we have evolved to a place where we have wisdom as well, because I'm not going to throw all westernized stuff out the window either.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. It is
It,
it's integrative.
mm-hmm.
It's all made to the benefit. I think it's just the heart
Wait.
of the humans using it, if they're using
Mm-hmm.
it for their own selfish greed, or are they
Mm-hmm.
actually using it to truly help the human?
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, I see what Western medicine built upon traditional knowledge, and you can't forsake one for the other. And like you said, with is your intention. Like the pharmaceutical industries, they don't always have the best intentions. But as humans, you have to study both. Like you have to study the pharmaceuticals and the herbs to know how they really can interact with your system. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's okay. So we got into the bush tea and I'm so like still going, whoa. I'm gonna make some now because I'm looking at my lemongrass right out here. I
Mm-hmm.
have lemongrass and moringa. And
Yeah.
people have no idea. Like they have these huge trees and the seed pods are falling and stuff. And I'll never forget. It was my neighbor who is from Trinidad. He
Okay.
took a pod out, opened up the seed, and asked me to chew it. And I'm like,
Yep.
I don't trust that. But I love this guy. All right. He's such a sweet old man. And
Mhm.
I chewed the seed of the moringa.
Yep,
And then
yep.
he's like, now drink a glass of water. And it blew my mind. It was like a
How much
magic
your
trick.
taste buds, yeah.
Leah.
Yeah, moringa is magic, yeah.
I was just like, wait, that's right here. Trees all over the place, and people don't know.
Uh-huh.
Hibiscus.
Hmm.
Like we
Hmm.
think these are all ornamental. And I do say, and we got to be careful though, because sometimes, somebody could be allergic to something.
Yeah, and you
So,
can overdose it. Moringa, I was in Cuba chewing moringa seeds for a long yeah, I was just going too hard with it because I often do that to see the effects, and it lowered my blood pressure. Like I was almost lethargic, and I was like, oh, okay, this is strong medicine. So again, you do have to balance our enthusiasm with the fact that these are actual medicine too. Yeah.
well, I think it's also, like you said earlier, being connected with the plant. That makes you
Hmm.
slow down to actually
Hmm.
understand your body and
Yep.
listen to it.
Yep.
And that's what's missing too. We have gone to a place where we put our power into so many other humans. We
Yep.
believing the hype. Now I'm
Yep.
singing Public Enemy in my brain.
And believe in
First
the
print.
hype. Uh-huh,
Don't
uh-huh.
believe the hype. That's how you
Ah.
that's how you know I'm a girl from the 80s.
Love it, love it.
So like, you know, to me it's like bringing it back to the here and now of what we can do. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and say, "Hey, everybody, go outside of your yard and get that dandelion." That the dandelion that we think is a weed that we're trying to kill
Hmm.
all the time is actually good for your liver. But be
Hmm.
careful eating a bunch of them because guess what? We don't know what it will do.
Yeah,
But at
yeah.
the same time, why don't you look? I always say that to my husband. I'm like, "That's not a weed. That's just a misunderstood flower." You know?
Hmm. A weed is only an unwanted plant by a certain person. Yes, it's
Uh,
not, nothing's universally a weed.
Right. So let's talk about like how can therapists and healers integrate traditional plant wisdom, especially from cultures they weren't raised in,
Uh-huh.
into mental
Um,
health care.
yeah, that's a good question. I think nowadays, especially with plant medicine, especially the psychotropic type plant medicine getting more popular, like ayahuasca,
Psilocybin.
psilocybin,
Yeah.
tobacco ceremonies, cacao ceremonies. I think it's important not to just like extract those things and just without honoring the context and the people, like the ethnobotany of it. I think a lot of people just use them now in therapy, which is great, but if you are divorcing it from the historical context, you're not going to get the same type of healing. I think you, as therapists or holistic counselors who want to use these things more,
Mhm.
just definitely talking to indigenous people, talking to elders, herbalists, teachers, that, like we said, not believing the hype, not believing the memes on TikTok, really taking that extra step to read a book, talk to an elder. I think when you're in using herbs in your practice too, it's important to like ethically source those things, know who's growing them, just so that you and your patient can have more of a connection to these plants. Yeah, so it just means going beyond the workshops or the hype, and building
Right.
authentic relationships. Yeah.
Right. And going beyond just Googling something real quick or
Mm-hmm.
believing everything ChatGPT says.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, you can all of a sudden, boom, get in, and it's like, all right, I'll make this tea. And it's like, 3 ounces of this and 2 ounces of that. And it's
Yeah.
just like, and then the next thing you know, you're like not feeling well.
Yeah, my
So,
cousin read my in my book. I talk about neem being a powerful herb that you're not. It's workful, it's antifungal, all the things, the science research. But she was like, "Oh my goodness, I've been drinking it every day as contraception." And I was like, "Yeah, girl, no, don't do that." She's like, "But someone said on TikTok," and I was
okay.
like, "Yeah, no." So there's again, books are important. Slow
Yes.
down, um, and yeah.
Books are important. And that is the thing. We are in a space where you have pop therapy, pop everything. Like that's
Hmm.
TikTok. TikTok,
Hmm.
we're TikTok brained. And and how do we move away from that? And I don't want to put that down either because some people, listen,
Hmm.
some people come to me and say, I heard this on TikTok. Now I want to hire you as the therapist to help me
Exactly,
through. So
exactly.
so we have to learn to integrate and balance and get the people to sit still with creator, with the Lord, and just breathe nature, like get back to the nature. That's what's
Hmm.
missing.
Hmm.
Sometimes people don't like when I say, do you have ADD or do you have a nature deficit disorder?
Hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I've never seen a child with ADD in the forest. I've never seen it.
Exactly. And,
Maybe in a
and,
classroom sitting down, but yeah.
and and that it's such a it's such a hard place for me to say because I'm a licensed therapist, so
Oh
I gotta
yeah,
be
yeah.
I gotta be
Yeah,
careful.
yeah.
But it's just understanding that any kind of label given to you, it's trying to find and be curious observer of the why that label and what's happening holistically, right? What food are you eating? What happened to you in childhood? Right? What medications are you taking? What everything? It's like, what are you watching? How are you using your five senses?
Yep, yep, yep.
Right? And so being able to really understand, like, some people don't like the outdoor. They think it's weird. I had a neighbor once who had a big banana tree as an ornamental. Bananas grew
Wow.
and they were
That's,
getting ripe. And so I went over there and I said, "What are you going to do with those?" And he's like, "Do with them." This is how, some cultures, like, they don't understand that because they're
yeah.
born and raised generation after
Yeah, where do
generation.
bananas come from? The grocery store, of course.
Yes.
Like,
Yes. Yeah.
not from that tree in my backyard.
Yeah, he's like, that's kind of gross. There were spiders on there and everything. So I took the bananas. He gave them to
Hmm.
me. I'm like, all right, thanks. I made banana bread,
Nice,
hmm
nice.
with some cacao nibs.
Okay,
Right,
okay.
right. I said, here's a loaf for you. He did not put two and two together. Ate the whole
Uh,
thing. And then I finally said, I go, those were made out of the bananas from your store. And he was just like, he did, that dissonance that happens to people when they're like
hmm.
challenged in their brain and you could just
Hmm. Glitching a little bit, yeah.
glitching. I love that,
No.
Aleya, glitching. Oh my God. So let's go to the misunderstanding of maybe, you know, the Western medicine overlooks,
Hmm.
but the powerful mental health benefits. I mean, we already named them, journaling, sitting there. Aaliyah, what I really love to do, because I live in a place where there's not a lot of, I'm kind of jelly right now
Uh-huh.
of you living where you're living. Like when you said I could
Hmm.
step and go in there and stuff, but it's trying to figure out when you go out there. I do turn off my phone so
Hmm.
I don't get bothered, but I take pictures of nature. I
Hmm.
spend at least 2 hours in a little park that's by my house,
Okay,
an
okay.
arboretum, or even in my backyard. And I'll
Nice.
zoom in and I'll take pictures of the herb, the flower, because guess what's so beautiful about going to the same park all the time in
To see the
nature?
seasons and the flowers, the seeds, the fruits. Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
When I taught some people about ginger, not ginger, awapuhi, I don't know how to say that, but when you squeeze
Okay.
it and you put it in your
Oh
hair
yeah,
and
the
the
shampoo
smell,
ginger.
yes.
Uh-huh.
People are like, that's here? And I'm like, yes, that's here.
Hmm.
That's here, all around you, all
Yeah.
around you. So, why do you think Western medicine overlooks these things, or how else? Well, tell me about your book. Like, what else are you
Mhm.
teaching in that book?
Yeah, I mean, I'm naming probably around 40 different plants and talking about the traditional knowledge and my personal accounts with them, as well as the research. And then I also share about the background and history. So indigenous, European, African, and Southeast Asian all have huge influences on Caribbean herbalism because of the triangular trades. Um, and then lastly, I have a few interviews in there and I talk about bush baths and bush teas and
Oh,
tonics and
okay. Let's go to bush bath now.
oh yeah, yeah. Bush bath is part of mental health for sure. Yeah.
Well, tell me about that. What do you mean? If okay, no, tell me what you mean because after we hang up or in this evening after my hard day at work, I'm gonna try because I do Epsom
Hmm.
salt baths
Yeah,
with
exactly. I was gonna
with.
say similar to like bush tea being just a herbal tea. In
Hmm.
Western terminology, a bush bath would be, it's a herbal bath or Epsom salt bath with your lavender and things in it. But in the Caribbean, there's just a stronger tradition of using these healing plants in the water. And so they're making a strong, strong tea or decoction with things like cerasee, which is bitter melon. They use a lot of bitter herbs usually. And interestingly enough, we know bitter herbs are good for the liver and blood cleansing. So there's this like detoxing that happens when you're in the bath. There's also a somatic experience because when you're getting a bush bath, they're beating you with the herb. So you're feeling it on your body, you're smelling, you're getting all these sensations. And then lastly, a true bush bath involves prayers. So you're getting prayer, you're getting herbal healing and you're getting the somatic experience all in one. And I've seen it in my family. Like one of my uncles suffered with drug addiction, and like it's almost a last resort. They're like, we need to give him a bush bath. And one of my other older aunts, she was that was her thing, and she gave him one. And we can definitely say he was on the right path for a while after that. They, they're pretty intense. But on the other side, on the gentle side, for my daughter, I give her a bush bath when she has a fever. Like I'll bathe her in lemongrass, which in Trinidad we call fever grass. And that's more gentle. It's a way for me, it's a way to get herbs to a baby because they're not going to
Yeah.
drink it, but your
No.
skin is your biggest organ. So
Yes.
you're still going to absorb some of it. And yeah, so
And many people don't understand that their skin is the biggest organ. They
yeah.
don't. And this is
Mm-hmm.
and they're not and we have so many endocrine disruptors. And us
Mm-hmm.
women, I mean, there's so many women that are suffering with Hashimoto's or PCOS
Uh-huh.
or a lot of hormonal things. And
Yep,
we're
yep,
not
yep.
understanding that the Glade plug-in, and then you got the lotions with 100 different ingredients in it, and we don't even know what they mean. And then we're eating stuff, and then we're going to Starbucks getting our pumpkin latte, which is coming. The season will be coming up soon, and then all that sugar, and I mean, it's just we are not understanding how the commercialism has affected us to a point of making us thinking that we need these things when God gave us things before TV was even existed,
Exactly,
you
exactly.
know? And
Yeah.
I want to talk about the skin a little bit more because that's something that back, I would say about 30 something years ago or more, just when you just said the whole bush bath thing, I remember, I guess it was my Puerto Rican grandma.
Uh-huh.
People know she was a Santeria medium.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. And so I remember being sick and sitting there, and she was just doing her thing. And I'm sitting
Yeah,
there
well.
going, it's scary. You know what it was, though? Now that I'm disentangling trauma from faith
Yeah,
and
yeah.
disentangling my true ancestral wisdom bloodline with horror. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
I don't know how else to explain it.
yeah.
I still long. It is a longing inside of me that wants to connect with my ancestors because I do know, like I did a DNA test. It
Mm-hmm.
says that I'm 25% Native American Indian,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? And I respect the cultures, all of
Yeah,
them,
yeah,
because you're
yeah.
right. The Caribbean people, when I looked at that, I'm like, what? This? And I'm like, this. My husband thinks it's that they just do like a lot like a machine where they're like, okay, we got another sucker here, just send them that and make them think that that's what they are.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, no, look at me. Look at us.
Mm-hmm.
Look
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
Caribbean people, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
we
Fully mixed.
So tell me about that a little more. Tell me about what you learned in your experiences of studying ethnobotany
Mm-hmm.
and the how trauma probably travels into intergenerational, but also healing does. Like, what else can
Mm-hmm.
you tell us about that?
Yeah, because I've been I'm living in Trinidad, but right now I'm on a sabbatical in Virginia at a rare book library. And these are books from the 1600s through the 1800s that are firsthand accounts of the explorers, we could call them colonizers, that came over to the Caribbean and are documenting this knowledge. Like botany was the thing. A botanist was the thing to be back then because you were bringing plants and people around the world. So they were really trying to study that. And when I'm reading these accounts, there is so much trauma in it. But as a descendant with multiple lineages in me, it's just like I just feel like I'd still have to read this, reclaim this knowledge because these are the only firsthand accounts because the Europeans were the ones using written language to describe things and encode them. Um, but what I find fascinating, yeah, in these accounts is that they're talking about the indigenous knowledge, like how they stole it or how they threatened to get it. Like I love the story of arrowroot. That's the arrowroot. We know it as a powder now, a starch, arrowroot starch, but it also was an antidote to poison. So the Native Americans would make poisonous arrows out of cassava, which we know as
Yucca?
also as yucca.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bitter, there's bitter yucca and sweet yucca. And the bitter one, you have to process to get the poison out. So they would make these arrows, hurt, kill Europeans while they're in warfare. And they threatened a Native American saying, like, we're going to hit you with your own arrow if you don't tell us the antidote. So that's how they found out that arrowroot is an antidote. Um, and then on the other hand, in the same book, they're talking about African knowledge of how to grow indigo and how people use different plants from Africa that they were bringing over. And so I just find it amazing that in the same breath, they're calling them heathens, but they're writing whole books based on their knowledge. And so we have to reclaim it and we have to learn it for ourselves and make our own connections with it. Because yeah, there is trauma there, but there is also healing there. And yeah, it's just important. And just like today, back then, the health system wasn't made for people from the global south. So they had to grow their own things. The Africans and the Native Americans bonded together to teach each other about the plants, because Africans would come over and say, like, oh, that looks kind of like what I had over there. Does it do the same thing? So they were doing this experimenting way before science was catching up with everything. So I just find it all fascinating and
Yeah.
and necessary for us to be uncovering, because there's no going back to the past. I don't romanticize it. I think especially if you're a Christian and build upon faith, you can integrate this ancestral knowledge into what we or as truth today. So but we have to have these conversations and study groups or something, because it's hard to really reconcile. And I'm with you with, like, whew, I want to do that, but also I want to
Right.
do it
Yeah.
this way.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
No, that's it. It's bringing science and faith and and ancestral wisdom. That's how, and respect. I think that's what's missing is respect
Mm-hmm.
nowadays because everybody's living in fear.
Yeah,
And you have a choice to either live in fear or faith.
yeah.
And I have faith that what God said in Genesis is real. Okay. And I have faith he made us male and female, right? He
Yeah.
created us and that he made us from the ground. And that's why we need these herbs and minerals. And I mean, when you think of it scientifically in that
Yeah,
manner,
yeah,
it's like, whoa, right? And how do we treat brothers and sisters or humans or actually living things
yeah,
to me? Because
yeah,
God made all the living things
yeah,
interconnected out of, when you really look into the science, protons, neutrons, electrons, like, right?
mm-hmm.
All things are made of this, and how do we respect it and still keep the mystery and awe of it? Because that's what it is, it's respect. Because
Yeah.
what I see is when the human becomes so 100% this is the only way, they have now taken the mystery of who God is and the awe, and now you are God like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Exactly.
Right? And then
Mm-hmm.
the disrespect, it's fear. That's what it is. It's false evidence appearing real, where people, when they're in fear or they're in that greed mind or that pride,
Mm-hmm.
the sin of pride, and it's all about, okay, it's about me and my people, right? And I think that's it being from the Caribbean and the way I was raised in New York and down here in South Florida and what I've seen and experienced. And God's called us
Yeah.
holistic healers to be peacemakers and bridges.
Yeah. 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 I
Okay.
definitely resonate.
So listen, Aleya, I think I probably could talk to you for another year. I'm serious. Like
Oh,
I get lit up when I find people that understand holistic approaches with a respect and awe for creator and understands mental, physical, and science. Like
mhm.
that love of like, I'm like, where in Virginia are you? Like,
I'll send you a link to the
okay.
place. They do have residencies, so you can apply if you
Well,
want.
honestly, my son just moved
Uh-huh.
there.
Oh,
So
okay.
after we, because I don't
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to, private. My son's very private, so he gets even mad that I mentioned son. So it's like, um, so tell me how people can find you and what are you up to nowadays? And if they want to contact you, read your book, or go
Mhm.
to Trinidad and go on one of your explorations.
Yeah, for sure. My website is easy to remember, caribbeanherbalism.com. And on there, you'll find pictures of all the plants in the book because I wasn't able to put pictures in the book. You'll find information about our cacao farm and ways to come visit. And you'll also see my writings. So if you don't buy the book, I also have a Substack that I update at least monthly with, my musings. I call them botanical musings. And on Instagram and Facebook, you can find me Natural Aleya. That's where you'll get more up to date what I'm doing. I like to share my stories about what I'm learning in a library and, take y'all along on the journey with me. And if you want to visit Trinidad, please do reach out on any of those platforms. And we do curate experiences for people, and we live near a river, so oftentimes people want to walk to the river, learn about the plants along the way and how they work, and we're tasting, we're touching, we're dyeing
Oh
ourselves
my
with
God.
ruku and anato, and then at the
Which I've
end.
seen in food. That's an ingredient
Exactly,
in
as
Western
as
eyes.
exactly
Yeah.
as it is. It's in cheese of all things. They use it to color cheese a lot, but also medicinal and all the other things. And then at the end, my husband is the chocolatier and the beekeeper, so we always offer chocolate. And cacao is one of the, from if we're talking mental health, gotta talk a little bit about cacao too, but that's a whole nother story because
Yeah.
it's got those anandamine and the bliss chemicals and
Dark chocolate.
serotonin.
Yeah,
Yep.
you said to help with depression. I heard
Uh-huh.
about that too. Oh, see, we could sit here for another hour. But you know
But
what?
yeah, uh-huh.
I'll drop all that in the show notes. And I'm
Okay.
just thinking right now that, honey, if you're listening to this, I think I know where we're going to go for vacation.
Yeah. Yep. Come on down. Come
Oh
on
no,
down.
I'm serious. Because that's the kind of thing I like. I don't like to just go to a place that's all touristy. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
I want to that, what you just said.
Mhm.
Honestly, it's
Yep.
like,
And I'll give
oh,
you good pointers on places to stay and other things too. But yeah.
oh, Leah, I love that. This was
Yes.
so wonderful. Is there anything else you want to say before we say goodbye?
No, I think we covered a whole lot. I really appreciate your questions and enthusiasm. And yeah, in the book, you can find it on all the major platforms, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target. And definitely if you go to your local bookstore, that's the best, and ask them to order it for you, they'd be able to do it. So yeah.
How exciting. I'm getting it. That's going to be on my nightstand for
Thank you.
sure, for sure. Well, Leah, thank you so much for joining us here. And remember, listener, to trust in the Lord, guard your heart, and renew your mind. Bye.
Amen.
And now for the disclaimer to make sure you understand that you are responsible for you. The content provided on the Holistic Counselor podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified mental health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical or mental condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. The views expressed on this podcast are my personal opinions and do not represent the views of any professional organizations with which I am affiliated. Call your doctor, 911, or 988 immediately if you have a medical emergency. The Holistic Counselor podcast does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, physicians, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned on the podcast. Reliance on any information provided by the Holistic Counselor podcast, guests appearing on the podcast at the invitation of the Holistic Counselor podcast, or other listeners to the podcast is solely at your own risk. Confidentiality notice. If you engage with the Holistic Counselor podcast by commenting or posting and are a client, please be aware that you may be revealing information that could compromise your confidentiality. Please remember that disclosing your identity or personal details can be linked to your clinical material. As a therapist, I am bound by confidentiality and will not respond to any disclosures of this type on this podcast. I am committed to upholding the ethics and confidentiality of the therapeutic relationship, which extends to all forms of communication in accordance with the laws and professional guidelines that govern mental health professionals. I want you to know that your privacy is of utmost importance, and you are responsible for protecting it when interacting on this platform or any other public forum. Thank you.